Good afternoon and welcome to SEEA's webinar on 50001 Ready for the Southeast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Cyrus Bedwar and I serve as SEEA's Director of Energy Efficiency Policy. We're going to give folks a few more minutes to join the webinar and then we'll get started. So hold tight and we'll be right with you. Well, again, good afternoon and welcome to SEEA's webinar on 50001 Ready for the Southeast. My name is Cyrus Bedwar and I serve as SEEA's Director of Energy Efficiency Policy. We're so glad you're joining us today. For those of you who are SEEA members, we hope you're familiar with our organization and the work we do, but for those of you who are not, SEEA is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization advancing energy efficiency in 11 states in the Southeast. We focus on 4 key areas, including energy efficiency policy, the built environment, which addresses new and existing buildings, energy efficiency financing, which works primarily with cooperatives throughout the region to develop on-bill and on-tariff financing products for energy efficiency, and finally, energy efficient transportation, which works to support the introduction of new transportation technologies like electric vehicles to the region. Just like the industry we work in, our portfolio is evolving to include areas like public health, resilience, and advanced building technologies. A few logistical items before we get started. We will be recording and archiving this webinar on the SEEA website, should you wish to share it with colleagues who are not able to attend. We'll also post copies of the slides in that same place and follow up with information on where you can find that. We'll have the phone lines muted during the call. You can use the questions feature in your control panel, which is usually found on the right-hand side of your screen, to submit questions throughout the presentation, and we'll pause from time to time to answer them as we receive them. Our goal today is to provide you with an overview of 50001 Ready and the tools and resources you can use to support completion of the 50001 Ready program, either for your own facilities or for those of your clients. SEEA is pleased to be partnering with Advanced Energy from North Carolina, who will serve as the technical presenter for this webinar. I am pleased to introduce Mike Stowe of Advanced Energy, who will be delivering today's presentation. And I'm going to give him control right now so that he can walk you through the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Cyrus. Can you see the title slide?
Yes, we're all good to go.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, I'm Michael Stowe, or Mike Stowe, with Advanced Energy in Raleigh. I've been there about coming up on 8 years, and before that, I spent all my time in manufacturing plants, made a lot of different variety of things, mostly metal industry, automotive, but was always heat treating or cutting metal or making various different things, and had a lot of experience in industry, and am now working with industries to help them save more energy and hopefully make more bricks or whatever they happen to be making per kilowatt hour or BTU. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for attending. Just today's topics, we're going to cover a few things. Why is strategic energy management important? Kind of a big picture, and then a little more specific, why 50001 Ready. Then we're going to take an overview look at some of the features of the Navigator 50001 Ready Navigator Tool. Commitment to this program and doing this is not to be taken lightly, so we're going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the commitment you really need to be sure you have before you go down this road. What are the resources available, and there are many, and then what are the outcomes if you do go down this path of 50001 Ready? Some references, and then a little bit about how we'll get started. So 33.63 quadrillion BTUs, that's a big number. A quadrillion has 15 zeros after it. That's even more money than the federal government spends, which is hard to believe. But 33.63 quadrillions is the amount of industrial energy that was consumed annually. I think in 2015 was the last time I got this data point. But and if you look to the right, the big consumers are electric, which is the electric infrared oven. You can see in the bright orange, the natural gas combustion on the bottom. And then what I like to call the combination of gas and electricity, or electric gas, is plasma. And all these use energy, and it adds up to quite a bit. So if there's that much energy being consumed, then maybe we need to think about managing it in some strategic way. And the whole point of this for a manufacturing plant or a commercial building, a commercial entity, a hospital, an institution, is to make more with less, or to maintain more square footage with less energy. It very much is based on the lean principles of eliminating waste. And you see the little chart on the bottom or bottom right, which we're going to continue to talk about in a minute. You want to eliminate losses, eliminate waste, just like you would want to eliminate scrap in your production. You want to eliminate wasting any energy by the same token. And also, we're going to think about energy intensity. You know, if you're melting steel in a foundry, how much MMBTUs per ton are you doing? If you're a textile plant, what is your energy use per linear yard of textiles produced? Or if you're making widgets like shovels or hammers or gears or something, how much energy are you using per widget or per part? So let's talk about this energy efficiency part of strategic energy management, making more with less. This energy that's coming into your plant, if you think of the white box that says system and process as your manufacturing site or your plant or your building, you're paying for a certain amount of energy to come in. You're paid for that. It's maybe electricity, it may be natural gas, it may be propane, maybe diesel fuel, but you pay for that. And once you've paid for it, you own it. And what you do with it is up to you and your systems. And what you want to do is get as much of that energy that you pay for and bring in to add value to your product and eliminate the losses. You know, if you've got a natural gas convection oven with a stack at 1200 degrees blowing up to the atmosphere all day and all night, that's a lot of heat that is being wasted that could be used to add value somewhere in the plant. Inefficiencies on various processes, on motors, on chillers, compressed air leaks, all those are losses. You've bought that energy, you've paid for it, it's doing something, and then you're losing it. So just like lean manufacturing, we want to eliminate the waste of energy and get as much of our energy that we pay for into adding value to our processes and our parts. So to put this in kind of a thumb rule that you can remember, we want to increase energy efficiency of processes to reduce the energy intensity on our product. So if we make our processes more efficient, then we're going to use less BTUs per widget. So one of the things to really think about, and that we really look at when we look at manufacturing processes and understand the energy management, is what we call transformation. And that just means we're taking a raw material, in this case, a very simple example, a lump of clay, and we're transforming that into a finished painted vase. That requires some energy. It requires some labor. It requires some raw materials, but it also requires energy. And understanding what energy it requires, where that energy comes from, what type is it, how much is it, what's its order of magnitude relative to other energies is very important in understanding how to manage your energy, prioritize energy projects, and so forth. And here's a little more complex example. A big pile of scrap metal and a finished cast iron pipe fitting. That's a more of a manufacturing example, and that would have more steps and be a little more complicated than making the clay pot. But the same principles apply. You know, where's the energy going? Where are the energy pain points? Where are the energy opportunities? Understanding transformation in a manufacturing process from the raw materials to the final product is important. We sometimes call it dock to dock transformation. You know, this is the receiving dock where you bring in all your scrap metal, and then the shipping dock, you're shipping out these beautiful cast iron fittings. So dock to dock transformation is one way to think about that. One thing we use to help with strategic energy management and energy efficiency projects, and there's an exam on this drawing on the right here afterwards. There's a 20-question exam afterwards about this, so please memorize that. But seriously, that's a fairly simple process block diagram. And this is a formaldehyde plant. They bring in methanol and they use air, which has oxygen and methanol, to make formaldehyde. But anyway, you do a process flow chart like this, and you help find energy sources, significant energy users. Where are your big consumers? Where are they really spinning the meter? Where are they really sucking the natural gas out of the pipe? You know, what loads are constant? What loads are intermittent? What are the process loads versus the facility of support equipment like compressors and chillers and cooling towers? And basically, what are some of the operational parameters? So if you go through this exercise, you would do this or something similar to this as part of 50,001 Ready, you really get a good feel for your energy and how you need to manage it and what are the magnitudes. Also, one of the things you'll find doing energy management and also with 50,001 Ready is frequently when you do an energy project, you have some non-energy benefits. You find out that, oh, I did this and now I have less emissions, so my air permit may be different. And I'm just going to list these and you can look at them. But sometimes when you do an energy project, for example, the crankshaft you see in the upper right-hand corner being tempered to relieve all the stresses that are in it after machining and manufacturing, it's annealing this. That may be able to do more crankshafts per unit of energy in an infrared oven than it could in a natural gas convection oven. So there may be plant productivity improvements, quality improvements, break a bottleneck, reduce overtime. We've done projects where we've improved the process to the point that they didn't have to work a shift on Saturday on overtime. So things happen very good when you manage your energy and do projects other than just the energy benefit. And this is just a list of some of the things that you may see when you manage your energy very well. So basically, in terms of an energy management, and we're going to talk about the Plan, Do, Check, Act also here in a little bit, but this one's based basically on an industrial manufacturing site for strategic energy management, is understanding what's going on out on the plant floor, understanding the processes and the transformation from raw material to final product, analyze that process step by step and look for energy solutions, follow up and do it again. So this is kind of a continuous improvement of managing your energy in a manufacturing environment. And we're going to relate that to 50,001 Ready. So changing subjects now, that's kind of why we want to manage energy. It's a big number for a lot of plants. It's a big expense for various plants. Some plants, it's more a percentage of their operational cost than others, and that can be a factor. But now let's talk about why 50,001 is so applicable and useful to doing this strategic energy management. So 50,000 or ISO, the International Organization for Standards, ISO has been around for a long, long time. And ISO 50,001 has been around for a while. And DOE back probably in the early 2000s wanted to develop a program that built on ISO 50,001. And actually this came out first called SEP, or Superior Energy Performance. And you can see it's ANSI and ANAB accredited, and the superior energy performance is still in place. Better Buildings and Better Plants supports both superior energy performance and ISO 50001 certification. But along the way, DOE really wanted to have a program that would allow for more participation and have a goal of people being able to do all the good things and the principles of ISO 50001 without necessarily getting certified. And the 50001 Ready program provides a recognition from DOE, but you don't have to get certified or audited by a third party. And basically it allows you, it's a very good tool to do all the right principles and gain the benefits of energy savings and energy performance improvement without the third party certification. Now, some companies are going to get a requirement from upper management or corporate headquarters that says you shall get certified, and they will need to get certified. But for other customers that may not be part of a big corporation or just may be pursuing energy management on their own, 50001 Ready may be a very, very good first step into energy management. And we'll show later how that can lead to a pathway for further energy performance certifications. Another little bit about the background, it is based on the ISO 50001 standard. This picture here shows the first edition in 2011. There has now been a new edition that came out in 2018, and that's being rolled out at this time through various programs. And again, it's based on 50001 Ready is based on the 50001 standard. It's based on the Plan, Do, Check Act, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but that's the basic principles of any ISO document. In ISO 50001, the standard is what is making the basis for 50001 Ready and the steps in the tool that you need to work on if you choose to go down that path. This is a dashboard of 50001 Ready. It's got a lot of details here, and we're going to talk about this in more, but basically you can see to the bottom right hand corner there's a login. You set up an account, you're able to have access to this dashboard, which is in the middle, and we'll go into this much more detail. But 50001 Ready, one of the key reasons that you may want to do this is it is a system. It is formal, it is a system, it has an approach. You don't have to reinvent the wheel for everything. It's got lots of resources, and we're going to talk about that. But it is an available, free, web-based platform that anybody can log into and set up an account and start going through the tasks. Another reason for 50001 Ready and certification later, for that matter, is there's proven results. Here's two examples of two companies that are deeply involved in both superior energy performance and ISO 50001. And they have plants that do have strategic energy management formal programs and plants without. And you can see that the plants with a formal strategic energy management program at some level, 50001 Ready, ISO 50001 certification, or superior energy performance, perform not quite, but almost twice as good as plants without any formal program. And these are true numbers based on plants at Schneider Electric and 3M, who are two of the biggest participants in the superior energy performance and ISO 50001 programs. So 50001 Ready will help you formalize your strategic energy management program. And with a formal program, there is proven results that you're likely to get more savings over the course of the program. So that's what we want here on the right. Over time, this is what it's all about. We want more, more product, continuous improvement. If this is the amount of widgets we're making per kilowatt, we want to make more and more widgets per kilowatt. So some of the key items to think about for 50001 Ready is continuous improvement. That's the same principles in lean manufacturing or Kaizen or Six Sigma or any of those programs that you may be aware of in the other aspects of manufacturing. It creates a company cultural impact, because if you do 50001 Ready correctly, everyone in the plant will be aware of it and involved at some level, depending on their work relationship relative to the energy consumers. It requires a commitment. and it's key that the leadership drives 50,001 Ready, that the proper resources are provided. It does take some time. Time is money, labor is money. It does take some effort to do this, and leadership needs to understand that and commit to it. It's data driven. Collection and analysis of your energy performance information from electric bills, gas bills, inside the plant metering, whatever, it is data driven. You collect data on your energy and you monitor and measure that. It's also performance driven. You actually look at how you have a baseline and how you perform over several years relative to that baseline. It's performance driven and it adds value. You want to have energy. I mean, there's things companies would never do without considering quality or productivity or cost. We want to incorporate energy to where it gets that same consideration. Several plants I've worked at in the past, we actually added a block onto all capital expenditure applications requiring a review to ensure that energy had been considered in the purchase of that piece of equipment and things like that. So key items, 50,001 will add value to all your operations, with energy decisions becoming part of your day-to-day business instead of a side issue. A pathway, we talked about this earlier. 50,001 Ready can provide you a pathway to more rigorous and more beneficial energy programs. For 50,001 Ready, there's 25 tasks to be completed. You self-attest. There's no third-party audit. It does require an energy performance improvement that you can report, and then you can be recognized by DOE. If you want to go deeper, you can go to ISO 50001 certification, which does require a third-party audit. You will receive a certificate from ANSI, and it is a prerequisite to superior energy performance. Superior energy performance is like having a PhD in energy. It's very rigorous. It's very well established that the results are very, very good. There's third-party audit required. There's a third-party verification required to verify your savings, and you do receive a certification. So this starting with 50,001 is a great place to start. If you don't want to get certified or don't need to get certified, you can gain all the benefits from 50,001. If you do need to get certified because of a corporate requirement or just your own personal goal for your plant, that's fine. You can be pretty much ready when you finish 50,001 Ready to move on to certification. And then superior energy performance is another level. And if you wanted to kind of think about this, maybe 50,001 Ready is a high school diploma, ISO 50001 is a bachelor's degree, and superior energy performance is a doctor's degree in energy as far as the level of commitment and rigor. So 50,001 Ready can be a pathway towards 50,001 certification and on up to superior energy performance if that pathway is a desirable way for you to go. Okay, let's shift gears again. We're going to kind of look at 50,001 Ready, the actual tool and the program itself and what it involves. 50,001 Ready is, again, a recognition system for self-attesting to implementation of the energy management systems. ENMS on bullet number 1 is Energy Management Systems acronym, and it's based on the structure of ISO 50001. There's no third-party certifications required. There's lots of open source software tools, and they're designed to be adopted and used by people that are implementing 50,001 Ready. There's a help desk available for it. There's a suite of resources, and it's applicable to institutional, colleges, hospitals, commercial buildings, and of course, primarily for industrial facilities. One good feature that is relatively new for 50,001 Ready is it is able to support enterprise or multi-sites. So if you had a company with 27 sites across the United States with manufacturing at each of those sites, you could open a 50,001 Ready file and use the multi-site feature, multi-facility feature, and put all 27 sites in it and roll it all up into one big dashboard that you could track each site, assign tasks to each site, and it's very useful for people with multi-sites. So one thing we mentioned that you have to do, one of the steps is, I think it's step 24 or task 24, you actually must show demonstrated energy performance improvement to receive recognition from DOE, and that's just a matter of doing a baseline and a linear regression to an achievement period and showing that based on certain variables in production or heating and cooling that you have saved so much percent of energy. There's no level of requirement. You know, it doesn't have to be greater than 10 or less than 20 or anything like that. Just you have to show what you've done. And there's a document called the 50001 Ready Measurement and Verification Protocol, which describes what things you can use to do that. DOE has lots of tools. You certainly can use your own tool as long as DOE approves it for showing your improvement. But there is a document, the verification protocol, that will help you be able to determine your improvement. So let's take a look at the dashboard. I'm going to switch screens, Cyrus, and just make sure, I hope this works. If it doesn't, tell me.
Will do, Mike.
So hopefully now you're seeing a 50001 Ready Navigator on a website. Is that correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so this is the actual dashboard. I'm logged into one of my tests. I call that my test account because I play with it a lot. But this basically, you can log in and get a 50001 Navigator dashboard. These are the 4 areas: planning, energy review, continual improvement, and system management. And right now I haven't done anything, but as you do tasks and mark them complete in your Navigator tool, these will grow in percentage and you can see where you are. Then down below, there's the 4 areas that match the dashboard. And you can see for planning, it's got scope and boundaries, energy policy, management commitment, and so forth. Energy review is a very, very big area. There's 6 through 13 tasks for that. Again, very data heavy, figuring out what your big energy users are, what are your relevant variables. Relevant variables are things that impact your energy. If you make more bricks, you use more energy. So the number of bricks you make or the number of tons of clay you process in a day would be a relevant variable. If you heat the plant with natural gas in the wintertime, heating degree days could be a relevant variable. If you air condition the plant in the summertime, cooling degree days could be a relevant variable. In other words, the hotter it is, the more energy you use, and you can put those variables in there. Your energy performance indicators, you decide on what things. Maybe it's kilowatt hours consumed by the air compressors, maybe a energy process indicator or something like that. You set up your baselines, your objectives, and your targets, and so forth. Then you have your continual improvement things. You monitor, you measure, you have operational controls. Operational controls are things like if you determine that your air compressors are a significant energy users, you may have operational controls for log sheets for your maintenance techs to log certain factors on the air compressors to ensure they comply with the best energy performance possible, and so forth. Like any system, any ISO system, you're going to have a corrective actions program. There is a thing for considering energy in the design of your product, which is kind of interesting. And then we have system management. These are standard things in all ISO programs. You got to take care of your documents and your records. You got to have training, your program. Procurement is another interesting one for energy, ISO 50001. How you procure things, and it talks about, like, if you buy a new machine, you may tell people that you do consider energy in your purchasing. Internal auditing is part of every single thing. I just clicked on that one to show you some of the other tabs that are very interesting. So if you click on internal auditing, this is task 23, and it says what you'll do. We have conducted internal audits, and so forth and so on. It's got a tab called Getting It Done with lots of things you can click on. Task overview gives you the details. But one of the things I love about the 50001 Ready Navigator is this section here in task overview. If you scroll down, a lot of times you read through the standard and it says thou shalt do this, and when you do that you shall do this, and it's hard to read, almost like maybe a legal document, more legal language than practical language. But on this task overview tab for internal auditing, it's got a section down here that says, at the completion of this task, you will have ... done these things. So you can really see that I need to have developed an internal audit procedure. I need to have an audit schedule. I need to have an audit plan. I need to have trained internal auditors. I need to have conducted an internal audit, and so forth. So it really tells you what all, once you read all the language in the standard, it really tells you what you should have gotten done by the end of this step or task. And it also has this statement right here. This guidance is relative to section 463 of ISO standard. So this relates it back to the ISO standard. So if you go read section 4.6.3 of the ISO standard, it should relate to these things. And when you have done these things, you should have completed the requirements of that section of the standard. That's really nice. Then it has a very detailed full description. And the other thing that's very, very good is this resource tab. All these resources are free, downloadable PDFs or Word documents, various things, but an audit finding form, an audit schedule, examples of various different things, an audit plan for an industrial site, examples. So you've got all these resources. You don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel to make all these documents and things for your internal audit. So one other thing, let's see, task overview. Yeah, if you look under this full description tab here, this very first bullet point, one key factor, if you're going to do a 50001 ready, it's not a requirement, but you definitely be at advantage if you're already doing ISO 9000 or ISO 14001, which is the environmental ISO standard. So this section here gives you some tips on relating ISO 50001 to 14001 and or 9001, because a lot of people already have those in place. So this gives you some language about how they're related. And there's probably something, if it's an internal audit plan and you have an internal audit plan for 9000 and 14000, it would probably be very easy to piggyback audit plan for 50001 on top of that. So again, this Navigator tool does a very good job of helping you leverage what you already know or are already doing with another ISO plan to make it relatable to 50001, and that's very useful. So I'm gonna hop back over to the presentation now. Okay, Cyrus, are you seeing the dashboard on a slide now?
Yeah, we're back to your PowerPoint.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that was the dashboard, and then some of these slides are going to look similar, but this is very similar to the dashboard, but it kind of spells out all in one place and relates it to the Plan, Do, Check, Act. So the Navigator categories that we just saw on the dashboard were the planning, energy reviews, and so forth. And remember, the energy review had 6 through 13, which is a very important step. But you can see there's a lot of planning. Actually, steps 1 through 13 in the first two categories are planning. And then there's some doing that you do. There's some checking, monitoring, measuring, corrective actions, internal audits. That's all checking. And then act. So that just kind of gives you the really, really big picture of the 25 tasks. So continuing, previous experience with other ISO is a plus. We just mentioned that and how the ISO or the Navigator relates that on every single one of the 25 tasks. It relates it to 14001 and 9001. Again, we talked about this full description section where it has this ISO 9000 and 14000. We saw that on the Navigator. Task overview, it's got the guidance to the relevant sections. So if you're reading the task overview at the very bottom, it's going to say this is section 4.21, 22, 471, and so forth of the standard. So you can cross-reference to that. And again, one of my favorite things, and we saw this on the Navigator screen, in the task overview section, at the completion of this task, you will have done this. So if you hadn't done these, then you probably don't really feel good about saying you've completed the task. But you know that if you're trying to do the energy policy, you come down here and say, I've drafted an energy policy, upper management has approved the energy policy. Then you could feel really good about clicking complete on that step. Downloads, use the downloads. When this first came out, I went through the exercise of downloading every single thing in the 50,001 Navigator and putting it on my laptop. And I use that stuff all the time when we're consulting or working with a client. So it's very nice to have these PowerPoints, documents, Word documents, PDFs, and every single one of the 25 tasks has a list of these resources. Now, some of them duplicate, of course, because some of them are useful on more than one task. But if you're going to really get into this seriously, you should just download all of them and make a file folder on your laptop or your server so you'll have them at your fingertips. One of the other very good documents, and this is one of the things you can download, is called a documentation guidance table. And this gives you the reference of the ISO 50001. It tells you what task. So this one's applicable to task 1 and task 19. It has to do with documenting scope and boundaries of your program. And it tells you what you need to do as far as documents. And then you can add, so it goes through every step of the process. And this really helps you with knowing where you need documents, where you need records, and what you need to do for your documentation. That's one of the best downloaded things. I use it all the time to help people figure out if they need a procedure, do they need a document, do they need to keep a record, and so forth. So looking back at 50,001 really puts Plan, Do, Check, Act into a process, very simple, clear steps. And I kind of came up with this. Plan, Do, Check, Act sometimes gets kind of confusing, and 50,001 reading that language does. But basically, when you're planning, you're going to say what you will do. This is my energy management program. This is what I'm going to do. And then you do what you said. So say what you're going to do, figure out your system, your energy users, where you need to watch your energy consumption, what are your targets and goals, say what you will do what you said, then verify that you did it. Okay, I said I was going to do this. I was going to monitor the air compressors. Did I do what I said? Did I monitor the air compressors? Yes, I did. Here's all my data for 6 months on the air compressors. And then review and improve it. Management review, internal audits, all those things will provide feedback, and then you improve it, and then you plan again. So this puts it in very simple terms. Say what you're going to do what you said, verify that you did it, review and improve it. So let's talk a little bit about commitment is needed to really go down this road. Strong management commitment, leadership commitment to this process is very important. I've seen frustration happen when people get down this road and then the rubber meets the road and priorities come together, and sometimes energy gets pushed to the side and the people that were involved in the energy team get very frustrated. So it's not a 2-week process. It's a long-term commitment. It's really an ongoing process once you get into it. But basically, it boils down to, like everything else, time and money. You need an energy team. This is not a one person. I've heard people that don't even like the term energy champion because it is a team effort. It's not one person championing everything. It's a team effort from all parts of the business: accounting, procurement, design, operations, maintenance. It takes time to develop your energy management system with these 25 steps, tasks. You need to have the resources available to do that. You need to have resources available to travel some. You may need to go to some training. You may decide that you want to get certified as a certified practitioner in energy management systems and go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta and take the training. You need to have some budget for that. You need to have capital money to do the energy improvements that you find. If you find out that air compressors are 15% of all your energy use, but if you put a VFD on one of them, a variable frequency drive, you could reduce that to 12%. You need capital funding to buy that VFD and get it installed. It's very frustrating to have a great energy project and calculate that you could probably save 8% and have no money to do any of it. Very frustrating. Communicate. Upper management has to communicate. Everyone in the plant, from the guy that's been there 40 years to the person that just got hired as a temp last Monday, need to know we have an energy policy. We care about energy at a minimum. Those two things. We have an energy policy, and this is basically what it says we will do. Internal auditing resources. A lot of times people that have 9001, 14001, and now 50001 will have like their ISO 14,000 people will audit the energy people will audit quality, and quality will audit safety or environmental. So it works out pretty good if you have multiple internal auditors to do different systems in the one they work in. And management should do very meaningful management reviews. They should provide good, wise leadership and guidance to improve the system via their management reviews, which are a requirement of one of the tasks and a requirement of the system. So it's not to be taken lightly. It does take some commitment. The rewards are very, very good, very, very worth it, but it does take some commitment. So what are some of the resources that are available? We're going to hit on these a little bit. We've already talked about the Navigator tool that you see here, and we went over on the other website screen. That's it. I mean, it's got all 25 tasks. They're all outlined with 4 or 5 tabs each. Lots of details, lots of downloadables and links for various tools. So that's where you really start. The Navigator tool, setting up an account, is really where you start. Excuse me. Another tool that's available through the Navigator or DOE websites, and I have a slide later with all these links on it, which you'll be able to get, is the energy footprint tool. You can use your own spreadsheet. That's fine. You can do however you want to do. This provides a tool for somebody that may have not ever tracked their energy before. It's easy to track and analyze. You can put in your energy consumption for electricity, gas, and lots of other things. You can put in your relevant variables like tons of bricks per day, or numbers of gears per day, or yards of cloth per day, heating and cooling degree days, your occupancy rate if you're a commercial building. You can put your energy uses, your big significant energy users, air compressors, and so forth. It also does calculate, if a lot of people are interested in their greenhouse gas or carbon footprint impact, it helps you calculate that. And it allows you, which is kind of really cool, so you can take the download from the energy footprint tool, the last tab, and you can copy and paste that into the Department of Energy Performance Indicator tool, and it'll tell you your actual improvement based on a baseline and an achievement period. So the energy footprint tool is very useful if you don't really have a good way of tracking all your energy and relevant variables at this point. And then we talked about the Energy Performance Indicator, ENPI, Energy Performance Indicator Lite tool. This is also downloadable. It's all free from DOE. You can see you get a little box up here that says 5.58% improvement, and then a lot of other statistical data. But basically you can enter data, or you can upload the data from the footprint tool. It does linear regression on your energy with your relevant variables. This will do all the math for you. It accepts input from DOE footprint tool. It also accepts input from the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which some people use. And the output file from this document you can submit to DOE as proof of your performance. That's one of the accepted methods of proving your energy performance to DOE for your recognition for Task 24. So this tool is available online. It's also free. Multi-site capability, we talked about this earlier. This is where you can go in with the Navigator and you can put multiple sites in here. And this one you can see is out in California, I think, with Berkeley Labs, because Lawrence Berkeley Labs is the owner of 50001 Ready at this point in time. So you can they have various sites in here: an Oakland office, Building 90, a Berkeley lab, a San Francisco facility, all test cases. And then there's lots more detail that you can add for each site, but you can use multiple sites in one Navigator account. It's very useful for people that have multiple manufacturing sites or multiple commercial buildings. So the other resources that are available is training. There's a full 2-day training slide deck that DOE has developed on 50001 Ready that goes real deep into the weeds on all 25 tasks. It covers how to approach these tasks, what do you need to do these tasks. It covers those tools up here, Energy Footprint Tool, ENP Lite. It covers those in more detail. The way we teach it is very practical. hands-on exercises to help you get started. You actually work in the tool on your laptop with your data. We encourage students for this type of training, the attendees, to bring data from their own site, and then we actually help them put it in the tool and see how things work. You know, if they have an energy policy, bring your energy policy, things like that. But very hands-on, very practical exercise. And also another resource is available, and there's a contact us on the DOE website. I got the link right here, but if you have any questions with the Navigator at all, you can go to this link and type in your name and email address and a little box to type in your questions, and someone will respond back to you. It's very, very helpful. So the training, you know, the training is something that is available from, you know, DOE. There's Better Plans has versions of it. So that, just keep that in mind. If that's something that's of interest, you can check with Cyrus to see how we might be able to do this. So what are the outcomes? What happens if you go down this road? If you go down the 50001 Ready road, you're gonna gain an extremely good understanding of the ISO 50001 standard and the requirements of the standard. You're gonna use the Navigator tool to complete the 25 tasks. It's got guidance in there, certainly open to some interpretation, which you can get help from DOE or someone like Advanced Energy or another energy consultant. You can gain DOE recognition and get a certificate for completing and self-attesting to completing the 25 tasks. And that's all good. The really good part is you will increase your energy performance improvement. You will, if you do this, you will use less energy, because you can't not. You cannot not do it. So if you go down this road, you will improve your energy performance. You will save energy and save money. And in many, many cases, when you save energy, you improve plant operations. We're talking about those non-energy benefits. People are going to be thinking about energy the same way they think about safety and quality and other things. So typically plants that have good energy performance show other improvements in environmental, in productivity, in reducing scrap. If you think about it, you know, people say, you know, well, if I have to scrap a part, I've lost all my raw material, I've lost all my value added, I've lost all the labor that the people did to make that part to the point that I scrapped it. But guess what? You also lost all the energy and electricity and natural gas you spent on that part to get it to that point when you scrapped it. So that's just as big a loss as those other things, and a lot of people don't realize that. So these are some of the outcomes that we would be looking for you to gain from this process. But the key one, in my opinion, are these last two. I think the DOE recognition is great, absolutely, but for your plant, you're going to improve your performance and you're going to improve your plant operations. So this is a kind of a step-by-step process way to think about it. Step one is you want to implement 50001 principles. You want to use the Navigator, you want to walk through the 25 tasks, you want to let that be your guide to set up your energy management system. Step two is you analyze your energy reductions, you adopt the tools, either your own tools or the DOE tools, and you determine that you have an energy management system and that you have improved, and this is your improvement level. And then you can file for recognition. You can submit, there's a form, of course, form for everything. There's a form that you can attest and sign and execute with your performance data, and you need to submit proof of your energy performance, and you submit that to DOE, and you can get a DOE recognition for completion of 50001 Ready. So here's some of the references that I talked about earlier. I think Cyrus is going to send out the PowerPoint presentation, so you'll have all these. A link to the program itself that just talks about the program and some of the things that are available, and how you proceed, how you get started, and lots of links from that site. Then there's the actual 50,000 Ready Navigator Tool, which is actually where you would log in, set up an account, start tracking your task, assigning people a task. And the task can be like, I think there's 4 things: not started, work in progress, in review, and complete. So as you mark the task, different levels, it'll show you that. Then it's got the tools. It's got the EMP Light tool, the energy footprint tool, where you can download those. Also, Better Buildings and Better Plants is very much engaged with 50001 Ready, and there's a link for 50001 Ready at Better Buildings for your reference. Also, I included a couple of key contacts up at DOE. Pete Langlois is the actual 50001 Ready program manager for the Department of Energy, and there's his contact information. And then Bruce Long is in the Better Buildings, Better Plants program at the U.S. Department of Energy, and he's more than happy to talk about how 50001 Ready is related to and engaged with Better Buildings, Better Plants program. So those are two key contacts for 50001 Ready reference. So just to kind of summarize a little bit about what, 50001 Ready, some points. It's definitely worth the effort. It is an effort. It's not necessarily very complicated, but it is effort. It takes some effort, takes some time to get where you want to get to, but it's worth the effort. You're going to save energy. The 50001 Ready is an alternative to 50001 certification. I put in there help for the weary. A lot of the people I go see and work with that have been told, oh, by the way, in addition to the 127 things on your work to-do list, I want you to check out 50001 Ready and get us recognized by January 1st, 2020. Okay, so this tool can be very helpful for people that don't have a lot of time to reinvent the wheel. So the 50001 Ready provides a whole lot of stuff to help you get going. And again, if you're lifting something heavy, you need leverage. Like Archimedes said, give me a lever big enough I can move the world. If you have 50001 Ready, it can be a real lever to help you move your energy program. It is very useful and very helpful. It provides great tools. It's a step-by-step process. You can go through the task. The tasks don't have to be done in order. There's not like step 2 is a prerequisite to step 3. It's different tasks you can do at different times in parallel. You will have a proven improvement. There's dashboard tracking to show your progress. There's great resources, both personal and electronic. You self-attest. You do the 25 tasks and you say, I did it. DOE takes you at your word. And then it's free. Most all of this stuff is free, open source, on the internet, provided by DOE. You don't have to pay a subscription fee to get Navigator or any of the tools. So let's just take a look here at how we might get started and all the help you may have to get you started. There's your company right here in the middle, and there's your utilities, your electric utility, your gas utility. Those account managers can be a good source of help for you in providing you information, especially data on what your consumption is, which is very important to 50001 Ready. Then you've got all the DOE programs that we've talked about. You've got the 50001 Ready Navigator, you got program management, you got help desk, you got superior energy performance if you want to later get down to that. Better Plants program is engaged. If you're already in Better Plants and want to add 50001 Ready, that's great. If you want to do 50001 Ready and look at Better Plants will accept your 50001 Ready energy baseline as the baseline for the Better Plants program. Advanced Energy is certainly not the only consultant, but take advantage of using a consultant for your strategic energy management, helping you understand ISO. There's lots of people out there. We're happy to do that. There's lots of others that could help you too. Georgia Tech has developed most all these training documents that we have available to provide training. They're a great partner. You would probably not work with them directly, but if you decided that you wanted somebody on your staff to become a certified practitioner in energy management systems or an ISO 50001 auditor, a true auditor, then you could go through some of the Georgia Tech training and certification programs that they have for those credentials for individual people. You got DOE resources. DOE is on lots of national cohorts, has lots of data on 50001 Ready, who's performed, who's got it, superior energy performance, who's got it, how they've performed. There's lots of good information if you just want to look at that. And then, of course, if you go down the whole 9 yards and want to get certified, there's those third-party verification bodies that would be available for ISO 50001 and superior energy performance certification. So really, the only thing you have to do to get started is want to get the management commitment, and then maybe start with some training or a more detailed overview, and go from there. But there's so much stuff that can surround you. You will not be on your own if you decide to go down this path. There's a lot of resources available. It's a great program. The 50001 Ready tool is very, very user-friendly and useful. And we would be happy, of course, to help you, as would SEEA and Cyrus's group, if you were interested in more details or in learning how to get started. So Cyrus, with that, I'm pretty much done with my slide deck. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We'll get to questions in a minute, and I'm going to preview that by saying we've got about 10 people listening into the webinar. So as soon as I do my next bit, I'm actually just going to go ahead and take y'all off mute, so you can speak to Mike directly. I think that provides for a little more engagement and opportunity to get your question truly answered. So in saying that, I will also ask that you, if you are not asking a question, you put yourself on mute and manage that so we don't get any background noise. But real quick, I just wanted to, so Mike, I'm going to grab back control here.
Okay.
I don't want to edit my name. Sorry.
I can see your screen. There you go.
There we go. Yep. So let me just zap out of that and go to the end. Mike mentioned the training and certification provided by Georgia Tech, and I'm not going to go through these slides, but they will be included in what you have access to following the webinar. And that includes information about the various certifications and trainings that Georgia Tech offers to support your efforts in 50001 Ready and strategic energy management. And it also provides information on the course options themselves, as well as contact information for you to get in touch with Georgia Tech if you're interested. So with that, I am going to go ahead and take everybody off mute. And if you have a question for me or for Mike, please go ahead and ask it, and we'll move through that. All right. I believe I've unmuted everybody. Does anyone have a question? You may need to also unmute yourself in order to speak.
Hi, this is Brett Pearson. I've got a quick question about the software system that you mentioned in the presentation there. Is it EM Lite, something like that, was it? Sorry,
yes, it's EN, E little n, capital PI. Energy is the EN, performance indicator Lite, LITE.
Okay, and you mentioned about it could do some regression analysis. I just wondered, does that normalize for weather and your production data and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. And you can, there's ENP Lite is a tool that's used primarily directly with the energy footprint tool. And the energy footprint tool, which is one of the other downloadable software tools, you can load in your relevant variables. And those things you mentioned are exactly that. Relevant variables are production. If your production is up one day and down the next, well, that means that affects your energy consumption very likely. If you heat or cool, heating degree days, cooling degree days, you can put all those relevant variables in by the same month as you put in your energy. So the tool will see that, okay, in January I had this much total energy and I had this much total bricks or chickens or whatever, and this many cooling degree days. In February I had this much energy and this much production. And then it takes all that into account when you put it into the ENP Lite tool. When it does a linear regression, it takes that into account. So you're comparing apples and apples. That's what it makes it do.
And all of these tools are available under the one registration, is that right? Or do you register for each one individually?
No, actually, yeah, actually you can, when you go and it's completely separate. For example, if you wanted to go to the link I have on slide 35 and download the ENP Lite tool just to use it, you can do that. There's no requirement to register an account with 50,001 Ready to get the ENP Lite tool. It's open anyway.
Okay, and that is it's a downloadable as opposed to a web-based tool, is that correct?
The ENP Lite and the Footprint tool. Well, I think ENP Lite is web-based. The Footprint tool, you can download it and use it. And what you do is the last tab, I think it's the last tab, when you get done with your Footprint tool and have all your energy over 12, 24, 36 months, whatever you want to do, once that's in there, it tells you, you go to like the last tab and you copy and paste that onto the website for the ENP Lite tool, and you can dump it right in there and it'll do its thing. Now there is, not to complicate the weeds, but there is another downloadable version of ENPI from DOE that's not Lite. It's the actual downloadable to an Excel file. And that's available too. I didn't include that in there, but if you're really interested in that, I can hook you up with that one too. And that one is downloadable where you can play with it yourself on your own laptop.
Yeah, I was kind of curious from a standpoint of managing multiple sites, and handling portfolios of buildings within that software, as well as then rolling up different organizations as well. And but that's all things I can kind of dig into the detail and see exactly the distinction between those two systems. I hadn't come across that system before, so thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Brett, for those questions. And Holly, I see you've made a comment. Would you care to just kind of share that with the group for their benefit? You may have to take yourself off mute in order to do that. All right, we'll come back to Holly. Any other questions for Mike or for me?
Yeah, I've got a question about the tool. When it walks you through the processes and all the tasks, does it walk through different applications or technologies or opportunities to save energy? Specifically, any specific opportunities to like look through? Does it tell the user how to do, like a self-audit of their own facility, or different? Does it have like a measure list of different energy opportunities to look for? Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. It's got some of those tools. Like for example, it may not. I don't think it has a specific thing that says if you're curing powder coat paint with natural gas convection, consider using infrared because it's more energy efficient, for example. And that's a very specific energy saving process that I have implemented in some places before. It may not have something that says you need to do an air leak survey and repair program to save energy on your air compressors. It does have some tools like that, but it's mainly focused on the energy management system, and you would be needing to rely on yourself or other sources for most of the energy saving ideas that you would come up with. But what it requires you to do as part of the process is to identify targets, objectives, and action plans. So when you go through the planning phases of the Navigator tool, it's going to require you to look at those things. In the energy review, one of the tasks, number 8, is significant energy users. So this means you're going to understand a pie chart of your facility, and you're going to see that, oh, air compressors are 22% of my total energy consumption. My paint line is 24% of my total energy consumption. And you may have some other item that's a big energy consumer. You may have a very, you're processing some type of meat product and you refrigerate and freeze it. So your refrigeration plan is 30% of your total energy. So once you figure out these significant energy users, that's going to lead you to where you're going to target your baseline objectives and targets and action plans. And those action plans, while the Navigator tool does not tell you that part of your action plan will say have a leak program, it will require you to make action plans, and then determining on what your significant energy users are, where your energy is going, you know, the big priorities of where to save or the big targets, that's going to lead you down that path. But the tool does not, I don't think, specifically have things like, you know, look at lighting, install LEDs, do air leak programs. Those are things that you would have to know or gain knowledge of from other sources. But it will require you to go look for those and assign them a action plan as part of your targets and objectives. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks for the answer. That's helpful. And then to go back to how it does its analysis and regression, could you talk a little more about the specifics of that one? Does it does the software that analyzes the data to correlate it to, you know, production and heating degree days, all the possible variables, does it look for outliers or look for data points that, you know, that don't seem to match? And then does it give the user all that insight so they can go through and say, actually, that was a good data point, or no, actually, you need to remove this one? Or does it kind of give the user all that insight, or does it mostly kind of happen behind the scenes?
Well, there's two answers to that. If you have the fully downloadable Excel spreadsheet version of ENPI, not light, it has a lot more of that available. But it does have a requirement for the data that there's certain, for example, if it's like 3 sigma off of the normal average for your data, it'll flag it or something like that. I don't remember, don't quote me on that, but something like that. It does look at the data, it does look at R-squared values and things like that, statistical values, it looks at all that, and it has to meet, you know, certain criteria to be a valid model, what it calls itself as a valid model. The ENPI light tool, it is light for a reason. Basically, you dump in data, it dumps you out an answer, and that's about it. You don't really get into the weeds very much. As long as your data is good, and that is mostly on you for the ENP light tool, it'll run. The ENP not light, which you can download to an Excel spreadsheet, gives you more ability to what I use it more because you can do iterations more easily. You can do a test case. Like what I will do, I use it for, like example, somebody will say, I'm going to do this to my production and do this to my energy with this project. You can predict, you can use it actually as a predictive tool to say, this is looking into the future of 2020. This is what I think I'm going to run, and this is what I think I'm going to consume. What is my energy savings going to be? And you can kind of reverse engineer that project. So the downloadable one, if you really are into the linear regression and data points and quality of the data and the model, is much more user-friendly. Not user-friendly, it's much more useful for someone that's more of a, not just wanting to get an answer from ENPI Lite. Basically, ENPI Lite, you dump in the data and it gives you the answer and a little bit of statistics about what you just did, but not a lot. The ENP not light tool gives you a lot more information and a lot more ability to tweak things.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that question, David. And Holly, I apologize. I needed to unmute you, but if you'd care to share what you posted, you may do so now.
I was just making the point that when an organization achieves certification to ISO 50001, their certificate comes from the certification body, which is accredited by ANAB to provide 50001 audit and certification services. The certificates do not come directly from ANSI. So I was just clarifying that point.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Well, please join me in thanking Mike Stowe from Advanced Energy for such an informative presentation. You can see why I have been so excited to partner with Advanced Energy, and in particular with Mike and his colleague Kit Butler on this project. We hope this information has been useful. As mentioned, the follow-up email you get following this webinar will include information on where to find both the recording and the slides to this webinar presentation. If you have any questions, both Mike's contact information and my contact information are included, and we'd welcome you to reach out. In the meantime, thank you for joining us, and have a great rest of your afternoon. That ends this webinar.
Thank you, Cyrus. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.